The history and restoration of the Mamaroneck train station. The Mamaroneck train station is part of the New Haven line of the Metro-North Commuter Railroad, a division of the MTA, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. At 125,000 riders a day, it is the busiest train line in America. Many of the train stations on the New Haven line, including New Rochelle, Mamaroneck, Rye, Portchester, Greenwich, and Coscob, were put into service on December 25, 1848. The first train came through Mamaroneck on December 28, 1848, as shown here. The original station was smaller and across Mamaroneck Avenue by what is now One Depot Plaza, across from what is now Smashburgers. The white building on the left was a hotel known as the Hannah Hotel. The new train station was built in 1888 on the hill at the level of the current upper parking lot. You can see where it is situated looking back over Mamaroneck Avenue from what was the Hannah Hotel. The MTA in 1888 built the Mamaroneck train station in the Romanesque revivalist architecture that was popular for government and municipal buildings during that period. Notice the grand porte-cochere covering the entrance at the front of the building to drop off passengers to keep them out of the weather. Notice also the steam locomotive used at that time and the covering protruding from the building at the rear. Electric trains started running to Grand Central Station in 1907. During the restoration project, we discovered two sets of building plans, one from before 1888 and a second set from 1927. Although we still find it hard to believe, the entire building was moved down the hill to accommodate two additional rail lines that came through the station at that time. During the move, the porte-cochere and rear coverings were removed, and two tunnels were added to move passengers under the tracks to catch northbound and southbound trains. The station remains in that location to this day. For most of the rest of the 20th century, the train station consisted of the passenger waiting area, two ticket windows, and a small newspaper stand. By the end of the 1990s and the start of the 21st century, the MTA had installed electronic ticket kiosks in a small warming hut on the train platform. The train station building was becoming obsolete. By the year 2000, only 10% of the train tickets were being sold at the ticket windows. People were not using the waiting room, the roof was leaking, and the building fell into disrepair. The areas around the building were scary at night. The police often found homeless people sleeping behind the station, and drugs were being used by others. In 2007, the MTA decided to sell the building. The MTA did not even want to spend the money to put in a Starbucks. The building was that far gone. In 2007, the MTA put out an RFP. It was a big building that had outlived its intended use. You can see in this slide the two ticket booths and the plywood box that contained the newspaper stand. To the right, you can see that nearly half of the building was unused and abandoned. From the green paint, we estimated that the southern portion of the building was painted in the 1940s or 50s and abandoned sometime after. The roof was leaking in this area and the floor was caving in. Above the ceiling of the station was an attic and crawl space. There was a dramatic and solid wood truss system, and the station's ceiling actually hung from this truss system about 4 feet. Also notice in the middle of the picture a wooden arch which was used as a form to make the brick arches of the original porte-cochere. Once the brick arches were set, the wood arches were removed and thrown into the attic. In 2008, Virgo Properties purchased the Mamaroneck train station from the MTA. It was largely unused, boarded up, and a gathering spot for undesirable uses and an eyesore to the community. Virgo Properties, which is a fourth-generation real estate development firm run by the Verni brothers, my brother Chris and I, we spent 3 years going through the planning and zoning process, bidding out the project, and began restoring the station to its former grandeur. We hired noted architect Stephen Tilley, an expert in historic preservation and green architecture. We employed several green building techniques. For example, as shown here, we reclaimed the station's ceiling and doors and benches for reuse in the building. We re-engineered the ceiling of the waiting room, dropping the ceiling 4 feet from 20 feet to 16 feet. That allowed for space to put new offices upstairs, as well as installing new electrical and heating systems. We were able to reclaim materials to create loft offices upstairs and install dormer windows to bring in light. We took the old historic windows, which had had rocks thrown through them and replaced by the MTA with simple clear glass, and sourced historic glass from Pennsylvania consistent with the 1880s. We removed the old asbestos roof and installed new green insulation for greater energy efficiency and a new roof. We also restored the tower. We restored the exterior by removing the graffiti. You see my daughter Mariel pictured here. Repointing the bricks with a special soft brown clay from Pennsylvania, and installed a new entrance on the second level with a handicap accessible ramp. We installed new green roofing on the train tunnels and new plantings on the hills. We also had a hawk that used to visit us, and you can see it in the picture on the right. We restored the important historic elements of the building: the palladium windows, the mahogany fireplace, and the terracotta and brick tower. The loft offices were restored with new dormer windows to let in the light, new radiant heat under the hardwood floors. Notice the wood arch from the form is still there, and modern glass partitions to allow for appreciation of the historic details. The result is One Station Plaza today, a restored waiting room that serves as a lounge and a bar. Notice the ticket windows now used as beer tap areas behind the bar. The old collapsed and abandoned south portion of the building is a large dining room popular for local dining, special occasions, and community events. And two active offices, a small private equity firm with local owners who live in Mamaroneck. The middle picture shows a picture of a conference room that we call the mini Shark Tank. And then to the right, the Verco Property real estate offices. My son Paul is pictured there. So there you have it, a short history of the construction and original use of the train station, its time of abandonment and neglect, and now its restoration and adaptive reuse.